We are now going to talk about solving equations. More specifically, one-step linear equations. Now, an equation is just a statement that says the two expressions are equal. And you know you're solving an equation because you see an equal sign. You could have an equation, for example, x divided by 2 plus 5 equals 13. This could be an equation, right? You could have all kinds of equations. The equations are really the reason why we study variables, because we often have these quantities that are unknown, and we need to figure out what those quantities equal. And solving an equation is how we find those unknown quantities. Now, because an equation is an expression that says that two expressions are equal, it basically means that whatever is on the left is completely identical to what's on the right. It seems like I'm saying something redundant, and maybe I am, but it's a very important point to grasp. For the purposes of this equation, the expression x over 2 plus 5 is exactly the same as the expression on the right, which in this case is 13. Now, why is it important? Well, it's important because if two expressions start out equaling each other, as long as you change them both in the same way, they're going to stay equal. For example, if I was to subtract 5 from the left side of the equation, right, this is my left side. If I was to subtract 5 from it, and I was to subtract 5 from the right side, right, this is the right side, and I'm going to subtract 5 from that, the result of what's on the left is going to equal the result that's on the right, because x over 2 plus 5 is the same thing as 13, so I started with two numbers that are the same. I subtracted the exact same amount from both numbers. My final answer, in this case, as you can see, the plus 5 and the minus 5 cancel, giving me x over 2, and 13 minus 5 is 8. X divided by 2 equals 8 is just as true of a statement as the original equation x over 2 plus 5 equals 13. And so what we're going to do when we solve equations is we're going to make use of this fact. We're going to make use of the fact that when you do the same thing to both sides of the equation, the sides of the equation stay equal. Now, with the exception of doing some naughty things like dividing both sides of the equation by 0, which of course you're not allowed to do, or multiplying both sides of the equation by 0, which it will cause a true statement, but it kind of erases the equation because it makes 0 equals 0. As long as you don't do those kinds of things, everything else is okay. Whatever you do to one side of an equation, you want to do to the other side. So as I said, we are going to use this fact in our next video to solve actual linear equations.